You should never call somebody a fascist unless you know precisely what that word means. I do know precisely what that word means, so when people come at me for calling other people fascists, they usually come unprepared. So when is it appropriate to call someone a fascist? Great question, and the answer is when they exhibit worldviews and perspectives that are aligned with historical fascist movements. Before we go any further, it's probably helpful to define fascism, which is something that nobody in these conversations ever seems to do, which is why they get so emotionally heated. Fascism is a form of palingenetic ultra-nationalism. Now that word palingenetic comes from palingenesis, the idea of a national rebirth. Fascism is obsessed with a cult of national purity and an idea of a mythic golden past that must be returned to through a form of national rebirth. The nation, which is imagined to be humiliated and threatened on the international stage, must be reborn through a broad-based revolutionary nationalist movement that defines itself against the backdrop of political gridlock and rejects both liberal reformism and leftist class struggle. Are you tracking with me so far? Fascism is a style of politics, not a form of government. It is a process, not an end result. While fascism tends to end with jackbooted thugs in the night and boxcars to Dachau or slit trenches in Treblinka, it usually starts as a protest movement inside a broader conservative coalition. A conservative commenter recently replied to one of my posts and said, in I think a way that was tongue-in-cheek, "Do you think every conservative is a fascist? Could you point to any conservatives who are not fascists, or is that a label that you apply to all of them?" And the answer is yes. Throughout history, there have been thousands of conservatives who are not fascists. There are many notable conservatives who stood up against fascism, vocally and strongly. Figures like Dietrich Bonhoeffer in Germany or Winston Churchill in the UK. The problem is that conservatives have a weakness. They are more afraid of the left and its radicalization than they are of the right. Fascists exploit this weakness in order to form an alliance with traditional conservatives, which they then hollow out from the inside. Afraid of the left, conservatives form an uneasy partnership with fascists, thinking that they can control them. The result is always the opposite, which means that most conservatives only end up becoming anti-fascists once they realize that it's already too late. I think that if ICE started rounding up queer people into concentration camps, you would see a lot of conservatives in the United States hiding queer people beneath their floorboards. But what those conservatives probably would not like to admit is that they were so afraid of phantom threats like wokeness or leftist radicalism or cultural Marxism, which, by the way, is literally a Nazi dog whistle invented by Joseph Goebbels, than they are of rising radicalism and violence on the right. Conservatives have a tendency to support and even vote for fascists out of fear from the left, and then turn around and claim that they had nothing to do with the rise of fascism in their countries. And this is because they don't realize that fascism is a process of radicalization rather than an end state. It is about the consolidation of a cult of unity and national purity through coercion, mass mobilization, and militarism. This is why when conservatives echo the Great Replacement theory, talk about immigrants as invaders, and obsess over internal enemies who are corrupting the purity of the nation, they don't often realize that they are explicitly echoing fascist talking points. And when they are, it's your responsibility to call them a fascist. I hope that clears it up for you.